Hi. Welcome back.
Yes. Post-election
And
into the holidays.
ready for winter?
Oh, no.
I mean, I think we're officially having our little first snowfall. So,
You know what's crazy, though, is it was like a whiteout all of a sudden,
yes.
and now there's no snow on the ground.
But it was 60 degrees the day before.
Right.
So it's like, of course, the ground isn't cold enough to maintain the snow, right?
Yeah.
But all day long, you've heard sirens going off. Like, people are having accidents because the one thing, nobody, even though you've lived here your whole life, it feels like nobody knows how to drive in the new snow.
Yeah, it's like this white substance that falls from the sky.
They forget from one year to the next.
Yep.
I don't get it, but
Yes.
interesting things. Interesting things all the way around, right?
So we were talking yesterday about daylight savings time. And do you think that there's more accidents, or has it been studied, during daylight savings time?
I think-
Because it's like dark at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, I think they've shown that there's more health incidents that happen and more accidents that happen as a result of the daylight savings time.
So why do we even have it?
Because we can't seem to get our state to pass the law that we don't have to do it anymore. Like, we're one of the few states that still has this.
But why won't they?
I don't know. I think that's a good question. Who do we know in government? Who
If you'd like
wants
to
to
reach
come
out
on?
and talk about daylight savings time, whether you're for or against, please let us know.
Yeah, well, I think the consumers are all against it. Everybody I know hates it.
I love it.
You love daylight savings
Yeah,
time?
but I'm like a vampire. Like, I'd like to just operate in the dark.
This is the good and the bad, right? Or the pros and the cons.
Right.
The differences between us, we are not alike, but
Yeah,
we do have varying opinions. So you like it.
I do.
Wow.
Yep. But I don't like really hot weather either. Like, I'm definitely a fall girl. Not so much spring, but I mean, I love tornadoes. Thrive on them.
Okay. Yeah, there's a definite line here. You're definitely on that side, and I'm on this side.
Yep.
In that respect. So
Yep.
interesting. All
I want to
right.
like live through a hurricane once. It's on a bucket list.
Why?
I mean, not like a category 5, but like, give me a 3. How good?
so you want to go down to Louisiana and have the hurricane parties when it's all going on?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, there's always goals, girl.
Okay, so have we picked up?
So obviously, we're going to start seeing a shift. What I can say is official numbers for the month of October, so it's always delayed, which is crazy because we should have instant access to this. But officially, they tabulate all this and give us that data. October is an up month, which, we had seen in our communities that things were starting to cool off. We were definitely seeing a lot of price adjustments going on. Things are sitting on the market for longer periods of time. But overall, 13 out of the 14 associations that are reporting to the state had up numbers, up in number of transactions and up in sales price. So the comparing this month to a year ago in October, our sales increased 4.8%, and the average sales price across Ohio rose an average of 6.1% increase. So that's not bad if you're saying it was kind of slow, right? We
Yeah.
definitely noticed that things were slow, so it's not a huge increase, but it is still an increase. So not necessarily good news for the buyers, certainly good news still for the sellers, but sellers are going to have to be patient, hold out there, and just stay in the process. A lot of people start getting anxious. They want to yank it off. Okay, well, I'll wait until after the holidays. The reality is you're probably costing yourself if you do that on the seller side, because your buyers who are looking during these times are motivated. They're really needing that process, and they're not going to see that house that's no longer active on the listings.
So you think most people now wouldn't move in until after January 1st anyway?
I think you see a little bit of that delayed occupancy. People don't want to necessarily do it, but they're, again, if they're moving in this time period, it's because they need to. So they'll just go ahead and make it happen. This is typically when we see a lot of investors come out because they want to spend money before the end of the year, especially now that elections are over and they may feel more comfortable as to how the next year is going to go. But there's people who are waiting on the sidelines to see the prices start dropping.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be honest, I don't know that we're going to see huge price adjustments. Yes, we have seen price reductions in our communities, but not across the board. It's the homes that maybe were priced on the high side coming in, trying to get the benefit of a market that is not really there any longer. And I think historically, if the real estate market goes along with the election cycle, now that election cycle is over, things are going to start chugging back up.
So do you think that numbers were up in October? Because if you look at any kind of election recaps or polls or whatever, there was definitely a switch somewhere around October 1st-ish where there was all this momentum for the Democratic candidate, and then it just fell off a cliff. And then it started looking like President Trump was going to be, the favorite.
Yeah.
He was definitely in all of, if you do sports betting or election betting or,
right.
Whatever. And he's obviously got, the real estate background and is more pro homeowner.
Yeah.
Do you think that that had anything to do with the October numbers?
I think that it was starting to show in there that historically Republican politics garners well for real estate. But then you add the caveat with Trump having real estate background, and I think that was an added boom. I think you add in the economic factor that he was trending really high on those numbers. I think that happens to help us. So I think we're in for an upswing. If I had to use my little crystal ball to say anything, I think if you need to move, you need to make your best offer. You need to do what you can, and do it now while sellers are starting still to have a little anxiety because, oh my gosh, it's the winter season. Nobody buys in the winter. Yes, they do, people.
Yeah.
They do still buy in the winter, and they still look at houses. So if you want to sell, this isn't the time to take your house off of the market. This is the time to stick it out. And if you don't have anything because of the holidays, or you don't want any conflict because you have family coming in, we get that. We can block and do withholding of showings during that time, but the market would still see the active inventory, and so you could still have something that comes through. And then obviously scheduling time when people can tour it, when it's not a conflict for you or your holidays, your family, that kind of thing, is something that you should really be able to talk with your agent about, because they want to make sure that if you want to sell the house, we still have the optimal time to see it and can still make that timing work. People are more understanding because of the holidays, but once you clear that, you've kind of cleared the reasons why people are going to be reasonable for it, right? And so now a buyer is maybe not going to give you that extra time where maybe they would have been willing to give you till January to make a move. So you kind of have to weigh all of the factors out there for what you're really looking to do.
Okay. So from a seller's agent standpoint, do you think pictures are better with Christmas decorations?
Well, they're very time sensitive. So a lot of times what we see is right now, anybody that's getting listed, if you're listing a house today, you're going to go out and you've got snow in the pictures. Well, if that home hasn't sold and it's now March and April and your pictures haven't been updated and you still have snow on the ground, that's no, right? As the realtor, you want to make sure you're reflecting current days on market, not that this has been sitting out there since last Christmas and I never took the lights down or anything.
Right.
So if you do have decorations that timestamp it, like if it was Valentine's Day and everything was hearts, hey, thanks, then you wouldn't want that going into St. Patrick's Day as an example, because people shift it. We're used to advertising kind of being on a monthly basis. Nobody wants to go out and take pictures every month of a house listing, so that's where they look for neutrality, right?
Yeah.
But if you have it and it's Christmas decorations, then come January you need to be updating your photos.
Yeah. I remember when I was looking at houses, and if it had snow on the ground and it was June, like, ooh, how long has this house been on the market?
Exactly. And also, it does change the dynamics when you're going to look at houses and you have weather, inclement weather, you have snow, whether you're for it or against it.
Yeah.
The difference is that maybe you're not going to be able to see what is the roof condition, what does it look like on the outside, how are those shingles. Now, maybe you get a better indication on the inside if there's any moisture leaking or anything like that. It's not always definite thing that you're going to see that. But at least you know the pros and the cons of looking at a home with that type of weather. I, especially for inspections, like for it to be raining, because that way, if there is water coming into the basement, then the inspector may have a better chance of seeing that versus we haven't had rain for a month.
Yeah.
You're doing an inspection, so the first hard rain the new buyer gets, suddenly they have water in the basement. It's not necessarily able to be seen during the inspection if it's been dry.
Is that the same thing for snow and roofs? Like if you pull up and there's, significant snow on the ground and there's none on the roof, are you leaking heat?
It might be an indication of the insulation factor. That's not necessarily, most inspectors are going to tell you if you have a good level of insulation in the attic. They will definitely tell you if it's the old style versus a new updated style. But I don't know that they really tell you R factor or anything like that. And most buyers aren't getting up in the attic to look at that. So unless you have really that background, I don't know that people are actually checking it out. But if the home is cold and yet it's occupied, then you're going to check what's the heat setting on and is there a reason why it's cold? Oh, it's bitter cold outside. Okay, well, there's going to be a little bit of understanding, but you couldn't really tell if that's because air is escaping through the roof or anything.
Okay.
Just some tricks of the trade to kind of keep up with it. I still like to show properties. Obviously, it becomes more inconvenient if people have had new flooring or anything like that, and you've got boots with snow on it or it's coming in through the rain. It's reasonable for sellers to ask for people to take off their shoes and to come in. Some people have a problem with that. Sometimes it's difficult to take off your shoes and you wear the right socks or whatever, but you kind of just go with it because you want to see the house and you want to be respectful of what you're doing too.
Yeah. I think if you as a realtor are requiring, or the homeowner seller is requiring people to take off their shoes, you should offer those booties.
I think so.
The more expensive Homeorama homes we had to put on.
With the booties, I've also seen where if they've installed new carpeting, the carpet layers will leave like a walkway plastic.
Oh, yeah.
I like that as an option because, we're going to get snow. We're going to get rain. Those things are going to happen. Are there times where somebody refuses to take off their shoes and come into the house? Sure, but there's also cultures that's their norm. They take off shoes before they come inside.
Yeah.
So you just kind of have to work within the parameters of what's there.
Cool. So how do you see the rest of the year going?
I hope that we see things trending up and continuing that. I would love to see investors come back into it. They're still holding out, but maybe, we're going to see an uptick. Had a conversation with one of the home ownership centers, a representative working closely with them. She's actually a lender who's working with them, and they're talking about down payment assistance. I think we've talked a little bit about that before. There are some down payment assistance programs. What I caution people is to make sure that you understand what's involved with that. Because it may be governed by a municipality or a county or the state. It's not at the federal level, even though I know there was some gentle teasing about some down payment assistance coming that way. I don't know that there was a bill that actually passed that. But we have some here locally. The city of Dayton, Kettering, Montgomery County, these are all places that currently have those out there. And I think it's a little misleading in some of them where they say it's a down payment assistance, but it's actually a silent second mortgage. So you don't just get the free money. You will have to pay it back if you sell the house. It's not a grant, so I think people need to be aware of that. Each one has parameters that still need to be met. You still have to have some money into it, and it's capping, so it's up to 10% of the purchase price or dollar amount of $10,000. City of Dayton was offering up to $25,000, but it's a percentage of the purchase price. So if you're buying needs some help, rehab, in the city of Dayton, you're probably at $100,000 or $125,000 on a purchase price. You're not going to get $25,000 as the benefit because it's going to be 10%, so it's going to be 12.5. But then I think it's also important to know if it is a loan, does it get repaid? When does it get repaid? What triggers that? And I want to make sure people understand it's not just free money given out. And I think that defeats the purpose of down payment assistance because, yeah, you're getting assistance, but you're going to pay it back.
Right. And what tax benefits or
implications
that it has.
Yeah. And so that's where, when I asked this person for qualifying, that it is not just a handout. It's not money given to you. It is a loan that's a zero down loan. So it's not adding to your loan commitment of your first mortgage, but it is a second mortgage. So it will be recorded against the deed. If you go to sell it, then yes, it's going to be money that gets called up. So let's say you got the benefit of $10,000 and you've been in the home for 5, 7, whatever, however many years, and now you go to sell it. If you've never made a payment on it, you've probably forgotten that you even had it as an obligation. And this is the danger from time before when these silent seconds were a big thing. And it makes me nervous that we're hearing market lenders talk about that now because I think the public doesn't have enough information to realize. And so that silent second, I never made a payment on it. What do you mean I owe this money? As long as it's not incurring interest and it's at 0%, okay, great. So your $10,000 will be $10,000 that you repay.
Yeah.
But in the past, there was interest that was incurring on it. You never make a payment on it, so all of this has now netted a dollar amount that's higher. What do you mean I owe $17,000? That wouldn't be something that people would know to calculate in their head and maybe lose track of that. So just FYI, make sure you understand about the loan parts and any down payment assistance or grant money, how that stipulations are going to work for you or against you.
Yeah. Cool. Well, it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the year goes.
Yes.
And then right up to Trump's inauguration.
So we'll have a few episodes between now and then.
Yeah.
I'm sure as numbers come out, as we see an end of November number, if we see an incrementally higher bump in activity, I think that's going to be telling. And then I think as the months go on, we should be able to see how that impact is really playing out in our community.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You have to stop it.
Oh my gosh. Thanks for joining us today on the Realty Podcast. If you enjoyed the knowledge and entertainment today, please subscribe and share with your friends. We will be embarking on a journey that bridges the gap between realtors and clients, uncovering the heart and tea of real estate.